Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah! Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
What's up, everybody? Episode 240 of Top Rope Nation. My name's Ryan Drosty. I'm joined by Mr. Kyle Ross. It's a Sunday morning. Some people are out and getting a little religion this morning, but here on Top Rope Nation, we're going to be preaching from the pulpit, Kyle, on why the WWE continues to be absolute hot garbage. How you doing, Kyle Ross?
Oh, I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm doing very good here on a Sunday morning. I'm, in the high-class studio here at the house, I suppose. I got a little sunlight coming down on me, not in the dungeon known as the basement. You got some of the old LGN figures behind me over my, my left shoulder, I guess. So, yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll.
I love this setup that you have. I think I've only seen this once. It was it one night only when we did the classics with Liam?
Yeah.
On Patreon?
This is something that can only happen when I throw my family out of the house.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. They left voluntarily.
If it was ever worth throwing your family out of the house, if there's ever an event worth doing that, it was Elimination Chamber, because it's going to get you so hot.
Yeah, I think they might have seen it on the television and decided to leave.
We're out of here. No, that's great. I love the setup. Like I said, patrons have seen that before on one of our private videos we did as we did a Top Rope Nation Classics, one of our bonus shows over on Patreon. I guess that's a good segue to shout out a couple new patrons we got this week. So big shout out to Jeff Browning and Steve Shepard, who joined up on the Patreon page this weekend. Thank you guys so much for the support. We're growing each and every week, doing those bonus shows. Top Rope Nation Extra last week, Kyle and Liam O'Rourke did an awesome show looking at the Cody Rhodes situation, looking at the history of Elimination Chamber. Almost 2 hours those guys went. So If you want to hear that, there's a 15-minute preview, the first 15 minutes on our main podcast feed. But if you want to hear it, join up on the Patreon page. We'd love to have your support. The link here in the broadcast description. And of course, if you're tuning in for the first time and you're not already subscribed, we are streaming on all of the various video platforms today, Sunday morning, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter as well. Do us a favor, no matter where you're watching, head to the YouTube page, subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/TopRopeNation. We would appreciate that. And if you're listening to the podcast version after the fact, which is where 90% of our listeners are, if you're not already subscribed, do so. Leave us a written review, a 5-star rating. It helps out so much. We haven't had a written review come in quite a while. Would love to read one on the air again. So get those reviews in. Leave your Twitter or your Instagram username in the review so I can get a hold of you. I'll send you a free Top Rope Nation sticker for your trouble, Kyle. It's a good deal.
We did just get a piece of positive feedback in the chat, though, from Carl. Amen to Ryan. Was a bloody great show with Kyle and my good friend Liam. Like hearing that.
Thank you, Carl. Also a patron.
Yes. Also in the chat, we have a question here from Aman about the Super Bowl. This is very odd. Aman, I would not at this point recommend betting on the Bengals to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. I think that would be a mistake.
Yes, the game did already happen. The Rams won.
Is this old?
So don't do that.
Was this somehow stuck in the World Wide Web between the last time we opened this app?
I mean, my video was kind of jittery as we started. Was yours playing all right?
Yeah.
Mine was kind of weird on my end, so hopefully I'm coming across okay, other than this scratchy throat. I've been battling a cold this weekend and last week, but no, this page for this show is brand new. So, Aman, I think someone's trying to take advantage of you. Do not take that bet, sir. Do not do it.
I will bet you $1 million the Cincinnati Bengals do not win the Super Bowl.
Yes. So what we always do on the pay-per-view reviews, it's not a pay-per-view, premium live event. Got to get used to that again, Kyle. It's a big change for us here. On the premium live event, which, by the way, as was just pointed out by friend of the pod, Brian Zillum, over on Twitter, courtesy of Wrestling Observer Radio, Elimination Chamber had an hour and 6 minutes of wrestling on a 3-hour broadcast. Not hard to believe if you watch the show. Lots of video packages. premium live video package events is what we were watching yesterday. Kyle, what we always do is we give it a grade, A through F. I'll share the Twitter poll results here in just a second. What would you give this show?
C-, I think seems fair. I was going to be, at least by my standard, fairly generous towards the WWE going into the main event. People who follow along in the Facebook group, we had a live chat going. I wrote before the main event, I said, hey, the show so far has been pretty uneventful, but it has been by no means a bad show. Surprisingly, okay, you mentioned the lack of wrestling on the show. The booking, there was no faux pas, really, until the main event. The booking, it was straightforward. It wasn't, awe-inspiring or revolutionary or particularly exciting, but they didn't do anything wrong. But, man, I got some real issues with that main event that we'll get to, and that brought it down for me. This was a slightly below average show, even by the paltry standards of the WWE.
I pretty much 100% agree. C- is exactly the score I was going to give it, so we're right on the same. Because to me, I look at a C as average, and it was like average to below average. And I agree with you on the main event, which drug it down like a little bit for me when I was trying to think of my grade on this one. It, it was fine. We had a lot of good discussion going on in the Facebook group. By the way, if you're not in the Facebook group, link in the description. And people were chatting live during the show over there, and we had your friend Garrett Gonzalez from Observer Radio there and Fight Game Media, and he kind of said, he didn't really regret watching it. It was fine, and that's kind of where I was at too. Like, I thought it was.
Has it come to that though?
I know, though. That's what I'm getting to. That's the problem. Is like, that's how I felt too. Is like I watched it. My kids were in and out of the room. They like watching the women's matches. I do feel like a little bit better about them watching WWE than AEW because they're young. So, it's going to be a little more family friendly. So I'm more comfortable watching that in the living room when they're awake and stuff. So they were in and out, and I was like, yeah, it was all right. But like as a wrestling fan, as a 30-plus year wrestling fan, when I watched that show, Kyle, let me ask you this. I mean, we'll get into this whole concept later, I think, at the close. But like, what is the number one purpose of the pro wrestling business? Like, what is the goal if you're running a wrestling company? What would you say is the most important thing, Kyle? Because it's not match quality. What is it?
It's storytelling. I mean, it's probably making money, to be honest with you. It's number one, and storytelling.
Exactly. That was my thought. Storytelling and getting you to become a repeat viewer, right? Like, that's how you make money off the audience, is getting
making you excited about the product. Yeah.
Yep. Tune in tomorrow. Tune in on Friday. And there just was nothing on this event that made me want to tune into the next show. I mean, like, it was fine. There wasn't much that was like egregiously bad on this event. But there wasn't anything that was great either. It was just kind of there. And like you see in the show title today, average just isn't good enough. There's competition out there. And when I watch this product, WWE, it's not a well-booked product. No. They put on these isolated events that are okay. I thought that this was better than the Royal Rumble, but it'd be hard not to be. The Royal Rumble was one of the all-time worst events.
Yes, my 4-year-old daughter could have booked a better event than the Royal Rumble. What does that say for Shane McMahon, by the way?
Yeah, no kidding.
I will double back at the end of the show to a lot of what you just said about this concept of average isn't good enough. But for now, I'll point this out. There were a lot of people getting in their feelings over the last 72 hours or so on Twitter about the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. And did you see the results of worst major show of the year by any chance? Or do you recall it?
I don't remember what it was.
Okay. Well, all right. The top 5 were all WWE shows. Yeah, and what's crazy about that, and some people are like, oh, that's so crazy. Survivor Series was the worst, which we ripped. You and I did, because remember they like pretended that The Rock was going to show up and he wasn't going to and didn't.
Our thumbnail on YouTube is Roman walking past a fan, and I edited the fan sign to say, where the hell is The Rock?
Yeah, and I looked at this, so I remembered that. I looked at the other 4. I couldn't even remember what happened on them. Yeah. And so I went to Wikipedia to look, and that didn't even jog my memory. So what does that say? Like, these, like, people who I guess like the WWE more than us, and there are those people out there, I guess they're fine with these, but you just look back and these shows are so pointless. No rewatchability factor whatsoever. And we can roll through this card because I want to come to my big picture stuff later on. I just wanted to say that, I mean, if you're going to tell me I'm being too negative or we're being too negative, what was good on this show? Tell me something that was good.
Here is our Twitter poll results. And it was less A's than the Rumble, but the D or F percentage, I believe, was a little higher. It's pretty close to our Rumble poll results, though. We had 109 votes as of right now. 2.8% gave it an A. It's about 16.5% a B, 39.4 a C, and 41.3 a D or F. Yeah, and Carl mentioned in the chat, he goes D- because he always drops a grade simply for them being in Saudi Arabia. And, it's hard to overlook that fact, too, that the regime they're dealing with there and the history and everything. So, yeah, let's blow through the card, Kyle. I think that'll take us. So, did you see the pre-show?
I did not.
Okay.
You
want to come back to that?
Yeah, well, the Miz gave an interview, so we could talk about that. But, if someone thinks that's some dereliction of duty that we didn't watch the pre-show, rest assured that the result of that match will mean absolutely nothing in a couple weeks. Maybe even a couple days.
I saw a little of it.
I don't know if it means anything now.
Yeah.
Other than the Miz has to get a celebrity friend, apparently. So.
Yeah. So the thing, we can come back to it. I saw a little bit of it. So it was Mysterio working Miz. Dominic Mysterio was out there with him. And there was this big, not controversy, but like Ray and Dominic were pissed because Dominic got banned from ringside, and like the Miz basically tricked the referee into thinking that Dominic had hit him with a chair. And like, isn't that like a heel spot? Like, why would the babyface need two people out there to take on the Miz? Like, they were so mad that Dominic got banned from ringside. And if I'm getting this wrong, I only kind of had it casually on in the background. But that's what I saw in the moment, was that like Dominic gets banned. They're just losing their minds. And the Miz is so happy because he got Dominic banned. But like, dude, Rey Mysterio is the babyface. That's the heel spot. Like, where the heel has the manager out there and they kick out the manager, and then you're so pissed about it. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, Dominic Mysterio is very bad. I don't know if there's anyone worse in a major promotion. And why do they treat him like he's a child? Like, I get that he's Rey Mysterio's son, but he's not a child. He's like 24 years old. I think on commentary on TV a couple weeks ago, they had Corey Graves say, Ray might take away Dominic's PlayStation. I remember when I would like come home from college, and I'm like 20, and my dad would try telling me what to do. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to tell me what to do?
Yeah.
Tell it like they treat him like he's a teenager or he's like 8.
Yeah. He's
Dominic Mysterio? This guy stinks.
24 years old. Had to Google it to make sure. Yeah. 24 years old. I mean, God bless Dominic. He's still learning. Maybe he'll end up being decent. But right now, like, clearly he's there because of his father. Everybody knows that. That's an obstacle he has to overcome, is that perception, to get better. He doesn't warrant the spot he's in now, and nobody believes that if Ray retired tomorrow that he would be there much longer, right? I mean, or if Ray left the company.
And he's regressing too. Yeah. Like WWE is great at when somebody's making their debut and there's a lot of pressure on them, they don't want to look bad, at dressing it up. Mm-hmm. Like, what was it? It was against Seth Rollins at SummerSlam a couple years ago. Dominic debuted, and everyone's like, wow, that was way better than I thought. But since then, it's just been a steady decline.
Yeah. All right, so they opened the show proper with Roman defending the Universal title against William Goldberg. And anyone who has listened to the show for a long time knows I'm not the biggest Goldberg fan. But I thought this match was fine. It was 6 minutes. Pretty much did what they needed to do. Honestly, I would have had him win faster, but I understand why they didn't. It's Goldberg's last match on his contract. He's getting paid a lot of money to be there. 6 minutes, it's fine, whatever. He got in a little bit of offense. We had Roman kicking out of the spear, of course. But in the end, it's a ref stoppage. Roman chokes him out. Kyle, what did you think of this match?
Entrances were longer than the match.
Mm-hmm.
We did not get the barricade spot, did we?
No.
Despite
No
two
spear
guys
through
doing a
the
spear.
barricade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. This match was modern day WWE in a nutshell. It was dressed up as a big match. At the start, it looked like a big match. You could even maybe argue it felt like a big match. But then the match itself happened, and I don't know if calling it a big nothing burger is fair, but it's the same meal we've been getting for 6 years with this Goldberg. And every time, it's a little less tasty than the last time, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
he looked very old.
He's a step slower. He's a few days older. There was just nothing to this match. It was like the most basic thing. It was like, and that's the problem with so much of this card. It's like, if you just imagine what this might be, that's just what it is. There's like no surprise. As the people running this operation in WWE, like, there should be some drama, some creativity. This was like just a paint by numbers Roman Reigns Goldberg match. Like, if you didn't see the show and you just imagine what you think it might be, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And you talked about the finish. Man, that choke out finish for Roman always comes across so flat to me.
Yeah. When he started doing it at the beginning, it was fine, but I agree.
Because it was new, but now it's just like, it feels like the babyface will kind of like avoid the tap out initially, but then they just fade into it and it's over. And I get, there's going to be a bunch of MMA fans go, well, that's the way it works sometimes. But this isn't MMA, folks. It's a worked sport. And it's just not, it's not dramatic. It comes across as just like, oh, I guess there he tapped out. So whatever. I at least like how they portrayed Goldberg as an underdog here.
True.
Yeah. That was like one pod. They didn't pretend like this was an even matchup and the mighty like this was 98 Goldberg. They're like, this is his last stand. He's got one shot. Can he hit a lucky spear? And that was at least okay.
You think they'll continue the relationship with him? Like I mentioned, this is the end of his contract. Do you think there's going to be an extension there? Do you think this is the last time we see him in the ring? What do you think?
You look at the top of the card moving forward. I can see where Vince. Yeah, I can see where Vince is like, ugh, like, what do I have here? And he calls him back. Maybe the Crown Prince is just a big Goldberg fan and wants him again. So, I mean, if he asks Vince, he probably will. So, am I 100% convinced that we've seen the last of Bill Goldberg in the WWE? No, I'm not. At the same time, it probably should be. Because it's just, a lot of people complained how he just shows up and he gets in these title matches. And it really is just kind of like, why? Like, it's like, it's just rinse, repeat so often. And it's just the law of diminishing returns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, a per match deal, I definitely see the company getting desperate and bringing him back at some point. I would not be shocked. So,
I mean, who's left for him to work, though? I mean, that's the thing, though. He's not going to work with a young guy.
Well, Kyle, they're elevating all this young talent, so who knows in a year or two. Madcap Moss and Bill Goldberg.
Yeah.
WrestleMania.
A main event in any arena in the country.
All right. So the women's elimination chamber match. So we've gone with these Saudi shows to no women on the show, to them wrestling, to an elimination chamber match. There was people in a tizzy on twitter.com because the women were allowed to not wear t-shirts this time. They had the full bodysuits on. Boy, are our standards low, but yes, that is the case.
They got rid of the potato sacks that they were wrestling in last time.
Yes. And so we had Bianca Belair, the returning Alexa Bliss. Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. Dewdrop, Liv Morgan, Nikki ASH, Rhea Ripley.
Oh.
You're talking about so many people here that they've blown it with. Notably Rhea Ripley. I mean, for the people that think that she's still going to be elevated in a big-time deal, I hope you're right. I don't see it. They really missed their chance with her, I think. I know they're focusing on her again recently. Boy, I don't know. Nikki We said at the very beginning, this is not gonna this is not gonna work. They gave her that short title victory. It was exactly what we thought it was gonna be, and she's right back to where she was with just a different character. It's pretty lame. Liv Morgan, look, man, I don't know what they're doing with Liv Morgan. They made a documentary on her. They've given her various pushes. People like her. My daughter ran into the room when she heard her theme song and was like, I like this girl. And I could not believe it because I hardly ever watched WWE live around them. And she knew the theme song. They really like Liv Morgan. Both of my daughters that are old enough to know what's happening, but she's not going anywhere. And Alexa Bliss, dude, this was the chance to finally drop the stupid gimmick, which was voted in the Observer Awards worst gimmick, right?
Alexa As it should have been.
This was the chance. Man, I was hoping. I didn't think she was going to be in this match. And by the way, when we previewed this show, this was a mystery entrant. And I think I said on the show, God, I hope they keep it a mystery to have some intrigue. Oh, of course, they announced Alexa Bliss in advance.
That was so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
They teased the mystery, and they announced it on the Go Home show. Oh, it's just going to be Alexa. After those dreadful therapy segments.
And suppose, did they even get through all those? Because I know I said they had filmed 9 of them. So I don't know if they got more running. That's why I didn't think. That's why I didn't think she was going to be on the event, and I was hoping those dumb therapy segments was going to end with her dropping this horrid character. Nope, she comes out. No hypnosis, though, Kyle. No hypnosis.
I shudder to think what might still be left on the cutting room floor in Stamford.
At least there was no hypnosis, but she's still doing that gimmick. She had a swing in her pod. I will say she got a big response from the crowd. The crowd was very into the show. Loud responses for most of the people on it. WWE was very sensitive about the fact that it was a late arriving crowd because as they went on the air, there was empty seats all over the place. And Michael Cole instantly said, this was a late arriving crowd.
It was like Bobby Heenan making fun of the Hoosier Dome.
Yes.
At WrestleMania 8.
But they did react loud for us, so I'll give them that. But yeah, we still get the same Alexa character. And then Belair was the obvious winner going in, and just like we thought, she won. So the order of eliminations was Ripley eliminated Nikki 6 minutes in. Liv eliminated Doudrop, Kyle. Doudrop at 8:50. Doudrop! And by the way, they had these entrants coming in very fast in both chambers. It wasn't 5 minutes like it used to be. What was it, 2 minutes?
It was 2 minutes.
I don't know if they ever said. It was quick.
The announcers did not say anything, but it was definitely 2 minutes, and I could tell, right off the rip.
Alexa eliminated Liv at 12 minutes and 10 seconds in. Belair eliminated Rhea Ripley at 12:45, and then Belair eliminated Bliss. They were the last two left at 15:45. So again, it was exactly what you'd expect. Bianca Belair wins. She's going on to face Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Any deep thoughts on this one, Kyle?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. I'm going to look something up. So we'll talk about the men's one, obviously, in a minute. I think, yes. So the previous record holder for shortest chamber match was the SummerSlam 2003 one. And that was 19 minutes and 16 seconds. So this was the shortest chamber match on record. And I know the men's was very comparable length. So it's the two shortest. I believe, unless if I'm missing someone out there, but I don't think I am. The positive here is the right person won. I don't think the match would have been better if it was longer, although I think 2 minute intervals was probably too quick to do anything meaningful.
Yep.
Look, gang, God bless your daughters too, Ryan, but I'm sitting here watching this, getting ready. You get Liv Morgan, Doudrop, Nikki ASH, and man, it might as well be frickin' Virgil, Typhoon, and Skinner coming out here, man. Because these are frickin' jobbers. Who would like Nikki ASH and Doudrop? I get that. Well, I don't even know if Doudrop's a babyface or heel anymore, but it's not even wanting to see these characters get their comeuppance. It's I just don't want to see them. And God bless the ladies performing. I mean, they're trying their hearts out. They're just awful characters. Yeah. It's just no, I don't want this on my television. And so when half of your field has go away heat, Liv is just been beat like a drum. She's hopeless.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just like, what's the point? Ronda or Rhea, pardon me. Rhea, I know there was some people whose faith in her had been renewed by her performance in that gauntlet match on Raw, but I question what's the end game with that. Like, you build her up for one night to get people excited for this chamber match, but she's not winning, and I don't know what the play is for her at Mania at all.
Yeah.
I don't know where she's going to be 3 months from now. If she's necessarily, there's going to be people who don't like this take, but you know me, Ryan. What do I not give?
The Dirty Diaper Club, you do not care.
I do not give a damn, man. Rhea, to me, when I sit and I really analyze her wrestling, I'm paying specific attention to her. She looks like someone who is wrestling specifically for the people in charge. She's trying to tailor how she's working to impress them. And people might be well, that sounds pretty smart to me. They're the ones signing her check. Well, of course the Dirty Diaper Club would say something like that. But my point is, she doesn't feel or look comfortable working out there all the time. I see it's not so pronounced as it was maybe 6 months ago, but I see someone who wrestles with a lack of confidence at times. And, that whole bit where she's like, what did she say? Oh, it was so bad. I wrote it down. Do you want some brutality, Nikki? To play off her song? Come on, man. You can't be saying that stuff on TV and expect to get warm marks from me. That is some nerd shit, man. That is just bad. I mean, that is just, and like, I there's potential there. I just think that she suffers from a lack of confidence because in reality, her push was halted and she doesn't really know what the people in charge want her to be or what her path to success is. And that's her problem right now. As for Alexa, yes, just like you, I was hoping that this character was going to be retired permanently. It is not. Obviously, she got a big reaction because everyone gets big reactions in their first match back. But I don't know. The swing thing was amusing for some. I hate that character so much. I don't care if she does it well. It's a lousy character.
Yeah, very lousy. This match is full of lousy characters. The Nikki character is awful. The Dewdrop character, again, like how you ever sit in a booking meeting and think, oh, Dewdrop, that'll work out well. Yeah. It just defies all logic. Kyle, I got to tell you, my oldest daughter, she must have heard me like imitating you at one point because whenever she sees her on the screen, she yells out, Dewdrop!
I like that.
She thinks Dewdrop's just terrible too. Like,
I am an influencer.
I told this on our Rumble show, when she wrestled Becky. That was a Rumble, right? Can't remember. Where she was like crying in the match because she couldn't win. And so now every time she sees her, she's such a crybaby. Yeah, and she's supposed to be a face.
Well, and she was another one too. You could see the look on Dewdrop's face in that Rumble match. I actually felt bad for her, where she had no confidence either because they lost the crowd right away because that sign caught on fire. And that's the problem with a lot of these people. They don't know. They're so afraid they're stepping on eggshells. If they have a bad at night, they're like, my push is gone. I'm going to be taken off TV.
Yeah, I like Bianca a lot. Loved her win at WrestleMania last year was by far my favorite part of WrestleMania, and I hope she has another big moment. The problem was how they booked her the rest of the year. Yeah. So everyone wants her to get her win back from SummerSlam. That's the direction we're heading.
Yeah, and I want to be very clear about something. There will be some people, and by some people, I mean bad faith actors on Twitter.com, who will tell you that if Bianca wins at Mania, this was such great long-term storytelling.
Oh, God, no.
You people, maybe need to check yourselves with your criticism of WWE. No, it's not great long-term booking. It's she got her win back.
Yeah. Like, there was no story in the interim, really. Yeah.
Wrestling, when wrestling works best, it's not when it has just a start point and an end point with the story. It's when the in-between is also good. Believe it or not, this is possible and was typically the case most of the time in the 35 years I've watched professional wrestling. Just to say, oh yeah, we came back and, we put the title back on Bianca. That's not necessarily great storytelling. I think it's a good end point. Bianca does need to beat Becky at WrestleMania. I mean, if she loses,
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine the reaction on Twitter.com that day. But I don't think this is necessarily a great story, although they have 6 weeks of TV to fill. Maybe they can, at least make it feel like a really big deal, because it should be a big deal.
Mm-hmm. All right. So they follow that one up with a women's tag. So we've got Charlotte Flair teaming up with Sonya Deville, taking on Naomi and Ronda Rousey. Okay, a couple things on this match that were kind of cool if you didn't see it. Ronda wore her judo gi from the, I think, 2008 Olympics that she competed in. She came out with no makeup on, which I thought was cool. Ronda showing that you can look beautiful without wearing 2 pounds of makeup caked on your face. I thought that was a good message for the little girls watching this match. Very cool that she did that. She wrestles the match with one arm tied behind her back per the stipulations. And I got to tell you, Kyle, I thought she did a pretty good job considering she had to work the match like that. And, she's wrestled for, she took out the long break, but she's wrestled, but not super extensively. This is a challenging scenario to find yourself in. And I thought she did pretty good given the circumstance.
So I was kind of into this at the beginning. The issue was not that Ronda is someone who doesn't have a lot of experience and had to wrestle with one arm tied behind her back. I think the biggest issue in this match was how poorly her arm was tied behind her back.
Yeah, well, it ended up being on her side through.
Yeah, and she was sort of just pretending it was tied behind her back. At one point, it just wasn't tied at all, and she just sort of put her arm behind her own back.
She still didn't use it, though. I mean, she still worked true to the stipulation.
No, she did, and to her credit. But I'm just saying, it hurt the aura of believability of the match because you could just see that it wasn't really tied behind her back, and she was kind of just having to pretend it was. The other criticism is they built to a hot tag to Naomi, and it was a cold hot tag, man. They didn't do a good job of building to that. I'm sure that the Jim Cornettes of the world will have their take on that, as he always likes to rate hot tags. But the dynamic was fine. You had your 2 WrestleMania opponents on opposite sides, and then you had a mid-card women's feud that has been going on for a while, teaming up with them. So it was okay. The finish was the right thing to do, with Charlotte just sort of saying, yeah, I don't care about my partner. You can tap her out. I'll live to fight you at WrestleMania to Ronda. I thought that was effective. I again, here's another maybe nitpick. At the start of the match, and we all knew it was going to happen, Sonya was selling that she had an arm injury. That's why they had Ronda wrestle with her. Well, she just takes the thing off. Oh, it was a ruse. Well, it kind of makes the referee look like an idiot. Because the ref's like, oh, okay, I guess you were faking it the whole time. Well, this stipulation of the match is built around, we're just going to have to continue, and I guess the babyface is a moron for falling for this.
Changing things on the fly here.
Yeah, Sonya should have, cut a promo or something where she made it clear she was abusing her power as an authority. I think just doing that was a little phony. That's a minor thing maybe, but this was not bad.
No, I thought Ronda was better than the Rumble, better than her performance at the Rumble. Totally different dynamic, but I thought she looked better here. The armbar finish was fine with her screaming at Charlotte. So yeah, I mean it was decent. Just kind of like a lot of this show.
Yeah, they still have a long way to go. They being Ronda and Charlotte, in getting me excited about their match at WrestleMania, which is the second biggest match on the card as of right now. It's certainly being promoted as such. And I'm a little worried about that match, Ryan, when the bell rings come the first weekend of April. I think that the potential for that match to be bad or a train wreck is there.
Yeah, and especially in the main event slot.
Yeah.
Most likely. All right, moving on. We get your favorite and mine, Madcap Moss, future main eventer Kyle Ross, out there with...
Not a bad wrestler.
No, he isn't. It's just the gimmick is terrible. Again, this company still does these shitty gimmicks. I don't know why. I can't wrap my head around how they sit around backstage and come up with these gimmicks and think this is a good idea. Yes, some people have to be mid-card wrestlers, But like, you still want them to have decent gimmicks so that like potentially they could grow into something more. This gimmick could never grow into something more. Riddick Moss is fine as a wrestler. He's talented. The gimmick is freaking awful, as is Happy Corbin, his manager. And Drew McIntyre, the former world champion who carried the company through the pandemic, and then the crowd kind of turned on him, whatever. Him working this match just absolutely sucks, man. Like, how do you get excited about Drew McIntyre right now?
No. So, do we think that Riddick Moss told a bad joke backstage to Bruce and or Vince, or they heard him tell a bad joke, and this is why that happened? Because I cannot fathom any reason why you would give a man a gimmick like this.
I know.
And dress him up like an idiot.
Yep.
I mean, I've said it before, I liked Riddick and Tino Sabatelli as a team in NXT.
Yes.
I thought that was a team that had Vince McMahon written all over them. Two athletes, good-looking guys. You know, that was something that Vince could sink his teeth into. I know Sabatelli had the injury issues, and that's why it was broken up, but these guys worked hard. This was the lone match on the card where the level of work from the performers surpassed how the match was presented. You know, they over-delivered. Like, obviously,
yes.
I mean, you look at this, you're like, what is it? It was a match of the night. I had it at 3 stars.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the big and one thing I liked about it is it was worked in the appropriate fashion. You see this match, okay, and you're like, you just made the point. Drew McIntyre, what's he doing working with these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was worked in a way that it's like it's an underneath heel against a pseudo top babyface, and it was worked in that way where the underneath heel had to cheat to have any chance. And so it was him and Corbin it was a no DQ match, so they're double teaming McIntyre the whole way. McIntyre would have the edge when it was a fair fight, and then the heels would cheat to give Moss the edge. That is the appropriate way for this match to be worked. Now, Moss needs to tuck his head. He needs to learn to do that, because I saw the replay where he got all dinged up, and I don't know if it was anything reported on what that wound up being.
He appeared to be fine from what I heard. There's the screenshot if you're watching the video stream. I mean,
very good work there.
Oof.
But yeah, I watching it back on the replay, it looks like he just didn't take the bump right.
Alabama slam right on his head.
Yeah. So, other than that, kind of thing, the match was fine. I like Drew's work. I like his headbutt. He looks good. He looks impressive. My only criticism of Drew McIntyre right now, other than he's being booked lower than he probably should be, is this Braveheart.
The sword, yeah.
They're leaning too far into that. Like, why can't he just be an ass kicker? Why can't he just be a cool ass kicker? Why does he have to, pretend that he's Mel Gibson in a movie in 1994?
They have to gimmick up everything. I mean, it's all about selling toys, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I don't know about the optics of attempting a beheading in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
He used the sword to keep Corbin at bay. And then he hits the Claymore to get the victory. Yes.
To be clear, had they done that anywhere else but the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it would have been amusing. Corbin sold it great. Like, what the fuck, man? He tried to kill me. So that was good. And they're obvious. Again, it's not an end point that a lot of people are looking forward to, but they're building towards McIntyre beating Corbin. And I guess that's going to be a Mania match. So this accomplished what it needed to, and it over-delivered. It was my match of the night.
No, I agree. It was a pretty good match, but again, the story is how do you forecast Drew McIntyre getting back to where he was before? I don't know. I'm sure out of necessity it's going to happen again.
Yes.
But it sucks to see him muddled in these kinds of feuds right now.
It's so odd how they booked him at the end of his Raw tenure. In retrospect, remember he just jobbed a Big E for no reason on the way out of the territory, and we all made fun of that at the time. We're like, why are they building him? Why are they, just beating Drew like this when they're going to need guys? Now, the key is he's going to get a chance after WrestleMania because they're going to need people, and I think that's what they're doing. So again, I'll give them credit, I guess, for that.
Wow.
I really kind of want to go into I give them credit because there's clearly a long-term strategy that they're taking it slow because they want Drew to peak after Mania. That's what I guess I'm giving them credit
when they're
for.
going to be in need for people in the main event scene. Yeah.
Yeah. And God, do I want to tell a story about Braveheart right now, but I feel you're going to kill me in the name of time. Can I do it?
Just do it. Just do it.
Okay. All right. So you've obviously seen the movie, and I'm sure most of you have seen the movie. All right. Remember the part where the king discovers who his son's lover is?
Okay.
His son, the son turned out to be gay. Well, my buddy was telling me the story about watching that movie in a theater, and remember the king throws the lover out the window.
Yeah.
The movie theater cheered when that happened.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh my God, America in the year 1994?
Ooh.
That is hideous.
That's not. Well, I mean, you probably get. I don't know if I should say this, but probably get that reaction where this event was held.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah. That's a good. Yeah.
Not great laws over in Saudi Arabia, which again makes it hard to enjoy these shows on a more macro level.
That is one of the more obviously horrific stories I've ever heard of someone
bad,
with
man.
an audience reaction in a movie theater. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I'll never forget watching the movie Blow down at college senior year, and the part where Johnny Depp gets turned in by his mom. 6 people in the back row yell, "You fucking bitch!" Now that made me proud to be an American, right there.
That is a great turnaround.
Yeah,
End that story on a high note.
yeah.
Nice.
Work
No
with
pun
me,
intended.
Ryan. Yeah, work with me, Ryan. I'll get you to the promised land. There we go.
Oh, love it. All right. Well, we got Becky and Lita. Lita making her big singles return. Of course, she was in the Rumble, taking on Becky for the Raw Women's title. And for someone who hasn't had much in-ring action in many, many years, I thought Lita did pretty good here. 12-minute match, 12 minutes and 19 seconds. No surprise that Becky would get the victory. But I mean, overall, I was pretty impressed by what Lita did. She got, as you would expect, she was visibly tired by the end. But again, she doesn't wrestle anymore. So given she's in there with one of the biggest women's stars in the industry, I thought she did fine here.
I had very low expectations for this match.
Yeah.
I think Lita's work is romanticized in a way that doesn't match what the actual output was. I mean,
the standards at the time were a lot lower. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, everyone, her and Trish, that famous match everyone talks about when they main evented Raw? I have no idea who won that match. I don't know if I've actually seen it.
Boy, I remember watching it live. I think I was doing coverage of that Raw for WrestleView.
Who
if I'm
won?
not mistaken. I'm going to have to try. I don't remember. I'm going to have to look up the results and see if I actually was doing the results or what the date was. But
I mean, it was a big deal at the time that the women.
I imagine Lita won. But
because she was the baby face, right?
Yeah.
Or was she the baby face even? Or had she turned heel by that point? Because she was a heel with Edge in 2005.
December 6th, 2004.
Okay, so she was still a baby face then.
Yeah, Raw results, December 6th, 2004. Let me look. Booking this one on the fly, people.
Wasn't in my format sheet, Tony.
The internet goes a lot slower when you're streaming video, too. Okay, yeah, Lita won. 7 minutes and 9 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. Raw results. I'm just trying to see if I have a byline on this on WrestleView, if it's still...
Well, anyway, with this match, the crowd did not buy Lita as having any shot at winning here. There was the near fall at the end, which got a reaction, but I don't know. I don't know how to properly grade this because it wasn't good, but my expectation was so low that it may have beaten it. So,
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
To be fair, bringing Lita back in to challenge Becky is probably better than, Doudrop or Liv Morgan, who are these, full-timers who you just know have no chance, and the crowd doesn't care about them either. So
Yeah. I mean, they had some false finishes, which were kind of viable, throughout.
The crowd wasn't. The live crowd was. The one was towards the end.
The twist of fate and the moonsault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Yeah, I mean, it's good to see. This was her first singles match since 2006, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, again,
So,
and that was part of the reason my expectations were not very high
yeah,
coming in.
yeah.
Should we have a comment here in the Facebook? I
Oh, we
think this
do.
might be Ricky Skelton, by the way, our good friend.
Oh, let's see. Yes, it is. Let's see. This is from the Facebook group. Point for your discussion. Ryan, do you give them any credit for their use of women on these shows? I was appalled when they originally did it without them. And even that token one match being celebrated was disgusting, but they've pushed more and more women's matches onto the shows, and the Becky Lita billboard seemed like a big step. Still a bit regressive that they have to cover up, but they've clearly made progress. I mean, I think you do see the progress on the shows, as we joked about. They're not wearing the big t-shirts anymore. They've got the full bodysuits on. But is anything really changing for women in the country? I think it's just propaganda. They might be allowing WWE to do a little bit more, but for the average citizens in Saudi Arabia, I'm not up enough on changing laws in Saudi Arabia, but I don't think that I've heard that anything has changed massively. So
No, there haven't been. No.
It's true. I mean, it's true propaganda. For WWE, it looks fine, and yes, the WWE women have made progress, but have the Saudi Arabian women made progress? I don't think so.
I mean, I guess it depends how, like you said, how you want to define progress. Yes,
Yeah.
the WWE women have clearly taken a step by the fact there were multiple women. I mean, there were 3 women's matches on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, half the show was women's matches. That's pretty standard, actually, for a WWE card. So the WWE is essentially now presenting what the same product it would promote if it was in the States. Although, because they're getting so much money for these shows, I don't think they would have the same level of star power. You know, it had the Elimination Chamber in Topeka, Kansas. Lita wouldn't have been wrestling. That's something to consider, too. Lita wouldn't be on this show. I mean, maybe Becky would still be defending against someone, but Lita wouldn't be on this show if it wasn't for the money they were forking over.
Well, some people were pretty upset about that on Twitter. I saw some engagement going on where people were saying, like, I hope that's not Lita's last big singles match and it happened in Saudi Arabia. I mean, I got some stuff going through my head. So, like, on one hand, I was just like Rick, very appalled when they started doing these shows and the women weren't involved because, just as a societal norm, that's terrible. But also because I wanted them to be able to cash in because they were getting all this money. Because, look, in the end, this is all about money for WWE. And I was hoping that they would spread those paychecks out to the women, even if they weren't on the shows. So in that sense, it's good to see them on the shows getting the big paydays. Because WWE is not going to change things. I know that they like to paint it in the media that, oh, they're helping make change. And they have their women even sending out the exact same social media posts, word for word, like they're being instructed to copy and paste it. But they're not, it's just not going to make a change the way that country operates. So in the end, it's more on the wrestling side. It's more about getting them on the shows and letting them cash in because that's the only reason the company is there, is for making money. And so from that perspective, it is a victory for the women. From the perspective of Saudi Arabia and the women there, they're not getting anything different other than seeing women wrestle, but their own rights are not improving. And it's just propaganda in the truest sense of the word. Like it's exactly, these shows are just paid propaganda.
I mean, hey, our women are getting more opportunities. Doesn't have quite as nice of a ring to it in a tweet, does it? But that's the reality.
Right. Progress is when Saudi women can divorce without fear of seeing what Moss and Corbin saw in kayfabe. Yes, no kidding, Carl. Yep. All right. Should we move on to the main event?
You know, there's one thing I forgot about Corbin real quick. And it's funny that we mentioned. I can go back. One thing that, like, just absolutely burns my ass, okay? I see this sometimes, like, on Facebook. Like, there will be these, like, somebody will find some random stat and factoid about WWE that, like, again, resembles long-term booking but isn't long-term booking, and they'll promote it like it's some cool thing. Like I saw with Corbin, no one has ever kicked out of the end of days finish since he's been here. And I saw somebody in another Facebook group put once, that's really cool, man. They're really protecting his finish. And I'm like, dude, if someone would have kicked out of the end of days last night, it would not have even gotten a big reaction. No one would even have known.
Cared,
No one would have even known it was no one had kicked out of it previously.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I wouldn't be surprised if they build Mania around that. like Drew kicks out of it or something. But and there's certainly talked about the fact Corbin hasn't lost a match since he won all that money. But I mean, come on, man. The end of days? It's not Jake Roberts DDT. Okay, come on.
Yeah.
I just that was something that I saw once and always wanted to make fun of. That's really
I've
cool,
seen a lot
man.
of people comment on that too. The protected end of days. Do you think for 1 second that if Corbin had a big match against Roman, he wouldn't kick out of the end of days?
No, and like the thing is, it's like people like that's really, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like it wasn't like cool, like yeah, what? Like first of all, a finish should be protected. Okay, so like that's like the old Chris Rock bit. I take care of my kids. Well, you're supposed to take care of your kids.
Again, low standards, as we started this show talking about.
Yes.
All right. Main event, which currently has, based on 137 votes, a 3.5 rating on cagematch.net. Brock Lesnar winning the WWE Championship in 14 minutes and 55 seconds.
So we have a new shortest chamber match holder record.
Yeah, because the women's was how long? 15:45. Yeah, so this one was about a minute shorter. We did have Bobby. So a lot of stuff has come out about this. So Bobby Lashley never got involved in the match. Was taken out when, who was that crashed through his pod? I can't remember.
It was Austin Theory crashed through the pod, but it was on a powerbomb from Seth Rollins.
That's right. So that took out Lashley. He's taken out. They said he had a concussion, couldn't re-enter the match. There's a lot of people. Oh, is Cody going to come down? Get to that here in a minute. But no,
he caught the red eye to Jeddah from Poland.
But Bobby Lashley was taken out. He never worked the match, and it came out after the show that Bobby needs shoulder surgery. He hurt his shoulder in his Royal Rumble match with Brock, and if you go back and you notice, he takes some of the suplexes like awkwardly on just one side. That would be why. So he's reportedly going to be out for 4 months. So Lashley's going to miss WrestleMania.
That's
horrible timing on that. Yeah. And so really it was just Brock, Styles, Austin Theory, Riddle, and Seth Rollins. So we knew we were going to have a title change when Lashley gets out of the match.
And we knew who was going to win.
Yep. So late in the match, it was, I guess, Lashley's turn to enter, but he wasn't there. And Brock decided, F this, and he just busts out of his chamber, comes into the match. Yep. Comes into the match, and in a span of 1 minute and 10 seconds, eliminates Rollins, Riddle, and Styles. And then he toyed around with Austin Theory for almost 4 minutes, chased Theory up the side of the cage. Theory was trying to climb out of the cage, which was kind of funny. Brock, big dude, climbs up there, gets him on top of the pod, gives him an F5 off of the pod down to the outside padded area in the chamber.
Hope Theory's eventually, knee's okay.
What's that?
I said, I hope Theory's knee's okay, man. That
no
was
kidding.
An ugly looking fall.
Hell of a bump. Even if it is padded, it's still ugly fall. And then Brock defeats him. Brock wins the WWE title, celebrates with the fans at ringside, which was kind of enjoyable to watch, seeing Brock come out of his shell a little bit. He's been doing that more of late as a face. But in the end, this match really had nothing to offer other than, Kyle, as Top Rope Nation first reported weeks ago, it was Paul Heyman for months pushing in the creative meetings that he wanted this to be title for title at WrestleMania. Yeah. Paul Heyman gets his way. That's what we're getting at Mania. WWE Champion Lesnar against Universal Champion Roman Reigns. The third time they have main evented WrestleMania together. Your thoughts?
So I'm looking right now at Cage Match, and this is currently the lowest rated Elimination Chamber of all time, slightly below the infamous 2006 ECW December to Dismember one that Liam and I on the history said was certainly the worst of all time. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning, and now we can do some big picture stuff, okay? Coming into this match, I said this was a totally fine pay-per-view by WWE standards. And it wasn't an eventful show, but it wasn't bad either. I am almost aghast at the lack of reaction to this match being just such shameless false advertising. I saw our friend Zach Haydorn on Twitter. What the hell did Zach write exactly word for word? Let me look that up. He absolutely nailed my thoughts on this match.
See if I can bring it up on the screen here.
Twitter, I'm looking it up here too. This is great radio. 2 people going on Twitter.com.
Slow scrolling as the video stream is going, but yeah, Zach was watching it last night on delay. I saw it too. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, oops, I can't do. I see Zach changed his profile photo here. Okay, that's nice, Zach. Okay, I hope you're doing well.
Okay, I got it here.
Okay, you got it.
Screen. Yeah.
Okay,
he's got a few. Follow Zach Haydorn. Great follow.
Yeah.
What a joke of a main event. Really awful. It's not that difficult. If you didn't want Lashley to do a job or Lesnar to do a job, don't book the match.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to piggyback that right here. This show was largely built on a Lesnar-Lashley confrontation. And it was a confrontation the promotion knew it was not going to be able to deliver. That is some bullshit, man. And if people are like okay with that, then I think it's time for Kyle, I'm now speaking of myself in the third person, to cut my own blame the fans promo. Because if people are cool with that, then we're fucked, man. This product's that is just some real shit. That is unacceptable that they would build, like, that was the number one draw of this show, right? Like, okay, we think it's going to go title for title, but how are they going to do the title change? And they chose the lamest, most uncreative shit way to do it possible. And I know Lashley was hurt. If he was that hurt, then you needed to figure out another way to do the Heyman turn and to keep the title on Brock. Or you never had to take it off him in the first place.
No.
You just had a bunch of stuff happening because you have shows and you want stuff to happen, but none of it matters. And it's so uncreative. I got into this a little bit with Garrett, who you mentioned on the thing. It's like one thing for them to get to their next step, but it's never exciting how they do it. Once Lashley was taken out of the chamber, it's like, okay, well, is he going to come back? And then Michael Cole, they have him on commentary say, folks, breaking news, Bobby Lashley's not going to be able to ran on this match. They might as well just gone off the air at that point because you knew what was going to happen. And, I was in tears when it came down to Lashley or Lesnar and Theory, pardon me, because I'm like, Austin Theory's going to be last. And I'm like, what the hell are they thinking with this? It turns out that he was, the sacrificial lamb, and it was an impressive looking bump he took. And so some people are happy about that. But, man, I go back to it. There was a time and place when the Dave Meltzers of the world, the Wade Kellers of the world, the Brian Al, all the leaders in wrestling coverage in the industry would be apoplectic. And maybe they are. I have not listened to Wrestling Observer Radio yet, okay? Or I haven't listened to the Torch's coverage either, for that matter. There would be a time over the idea that you would just falsely advertise something you knew you couldn't deliver. It's just unacceptable. To do that. You can't do that.
I mean, you're taking your audience for fools. This is what you've built up for the entire interest of the main event of the show, and that you don't deliver.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, and we didn't even talk about this actually. There's a couple of things we're gonna have to go back and talk about the Cody stuff too, because we missed
the tag
that
match that they scrapped.
So we can just talk. We just talk about the tag match they scrapped right now. It was so lame the way they took the Usos out, or the Usos took the Viking Raiders out. It was like not an excessive heel beatdown at all. And that's really bad. Okay.
I hope they're getting paid well for traveling across the world to not work. And you know, one of the bad things about that is that's one of the few matches that's actually fresh. They've worked on house shows recently in some dark matches, but they have not worked on TV.
And it also had been built up the longest, I think.
Yeah.
It was a match that was announced. It might have even been the first match announced for the show.
Yeah. If
I remember on Wikipedia, or it was like this, I remember looking at the card and like it was one of the first 2 matches listed already. So whatever. But, with this, again, I know Lashley's hurt, so you've got to be careful how you're going to take him out. But Bobby Lashley, like this just giant, that's how you take him out?
Terrible.
It wasn't, I was thinking before the news came out that he was going to maybe have to miss Mania, that okay, well, they're going to do Seth and Lashley at Mania now because Lashley's going to blame Seth. I actually saw some people, Ryan, and God bless their souls, who are like, oh, I bet this means Lashley's going to be able to get a chance. He's going to make it a 3-way. Come on, man. What are you people think? Like, the only way Lashley would have gotten in that as a 3-way if he was not hurt is if both Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns flat out refused to do a job. And we're going to talk about that, I think, in a moment. WrestleMania, because my gears are turning on that WrestleMania. I have kind of now that it's title for title, I have a bit of a different outlook that I had coming out of Mania or coming out of the Rumble. So we'll get to that in a moment. But this was trash. This match, it was just all, and like, what about the other poor bastards in the match? Why did they even bother doing anything? They should have just done a song and dance routine for 8 minutes and then just said, okay, we're going to get our ass kicked by Brock Lesnar now. Bye. Because that's all, like, why would you even attempt to do anything meaningful in this match if you're Riddle, if you're AJ Styles, if you're Seth Rollins or Austin Theory? Because you're just going to be made to look like a complete jobber once Lesnar comes in. This
is the whole problem with the company is for 7 years, everything is revolved around Brock and Roman, and that's it. For as much as we talk about Roman's long title reign and hundreds of days and stuff, like, he's a heel. He's destroyed everybody. There's nobody for him to face, which is why they have to go back to Brock Lesnar yet again. And like Carl made the point in the chat here, why would we care about AJ going up against Edge or Rollins going up against Cody if those matches happen based on this match where they look like dorks who just easily got destroyed?
That's a great take by Carl, in my opinion.
Jesse had in the chat, someone on Twitter said the F5 off the pod could be the spot of the year. Laugh emoji. I want to, just from a match layout perspective, that was, as we've talked about, was a crazy spot. Austin Theory taking the F5 off the pod. But so for the people who actually agented this match, which I believe, was Jamie Noble and Abyss, why the hell, just to protect this guy's knees, wouldn't you have done that spot when the other guys were still in the match? Like, Brock lays out the other guys on the outside. He chases Theory up the side, and he does it, and they can at least catch him or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just do that. This was so risky.
Do you know what else was very odd about this match at the start? Lesnar was introduced last. This should tell you all you need to know about WWE in the second word. Lesnar was introduced last, even though he was in a pod. So it's always been the 4 guys that are in the pods get introduced first, and then the 2 guys who start the match get introduced last, because logistically it makes sense. The first 4 guys come in, they get in their pods. The other 2 guys, okay, they start the match. Well, Lesnar, he comes out last, even though the 2 guys who are starting the match are already in the ring. Don't think for a second that wasn't a political hit job he did on Riddle when he just completely ignored him. And he went to the other 3 pods and acknowledged the people, because Riddle and Lesnar have had their issues in the past, and I know Lesnar doesn't like Riddle. But that was odd. I mean, this match was 15 minutes of WWE telling you Brock Lesnar is the only damn thing you should care about. And these other guys, maybe they'll do something at WrestleMania, but it stinks. Yeah, Alexa did that too?
Yeah, they came out of order in the women's match too. Yeah, Alexa was last, I believe.
Why would they do that?
I also thought that was weird in the moment when I first noticed it in the women's match.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know. I didn't notice it about Alexa. I mean, she had the swings, so that's a good point.
There was a great tweet about how Brock should have used the swing while he waited to enter the match.
That would have been amusing. Yeah,
I laughed at that.
But no, I thought this was easily one of the worst chamber matches of all time. You know, coming into tonight or yesterday afternoon, I should say. The 3 worst chambers were the ECW one in 2006, and then those 2 mid-card ones they did in 2015 for no goddamn good reason.
Yep.
This completes the Mount Rushmore of bad chamber. Like, at the very best, it's the 4th worst.
Yeah.
I could see it having an argument for being the worst chamber match ever. It was just short and pointless and stupid.
I can't emphasize enough, guys. If you're listening and you haven't heard the full show Kyle and Liam did on Extra, our Patreon show, looking at the history of the chamber, you want to hear it. It's really, really good stuff. Join up on the Patreon for a month or something just to check it out. It's really good stuff. So, Yeah, it's emblematic of the problems that plague this company. As I said, Roman and Brock and everyone else is just mid-carders, and that's what we got yet again, a bunch of sacrificial lambs for Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and again, you want to have your top people look like top people, but like you can do that and not make everyone else look like such a schlub. Like it's not
Former
just that,
world
like,
champions.
yeah, it's not just like you want people to feel special, yes, but you don't want to just telegraph to your own audience these people suck,
Right.
or then make it. Maybe they don't think they're doing that, but it's just obvious when you're watching. You're like, what a bunch of jobbers these guys are, and then they try to overcompensate in the weeks that come with video packages and whatnot. They had that video package for Seth freaking Rollins. By the way, we should note that it was Seth freaking Rollins against the upstart Austin Theory starting this match.
Upstart.
Michael Cole would not stop saying upstart and freaking. That was lame. But, but the Seth Rollins, we got that video package, even though the other match had been canceled. That was great. Well, this match is gone, and, well, here's a video package.
Sacrifice for time, the tag title match, but we had a million video packages on this show. I mean, almost 2 hours worth of video packages and entrances.
Yeah, again, I guess just to put a bow on this match was just unacceptable to me based on the false advertising.
Yeah. Should we finish with The Miz and Cody and the thoughts on all that?
And then the big picture. Yeah, I still have some big picture thoughts I want to talk about.
Real quick, Miz was backstage later.
Earlier. It was like in the middle of the show.
Yeah, it was the middle of the show. And he was talking about the match he had earlier with Mysterio and basically how he needs a partner. And he said he was going to have to make a call to someone who's a worldwide star and all of this. And immediately people started wondering if that was going to be Cody Rhodes. And Kenny Omega had been on Observer Radio with Garrett and Dave the day before. Came out yesterday morning, actually. And he had said that Kenny joked that Cody was on a plane to Saudi Arabia. So people were wondering if he was going to be on the show or not, and he wasn't. But then people thought, oh, maybe The Miz is hinting at Cody here as his partner. Turns out he was talking about Logan Paul coming in for WrestleMania, according to reports. But Cody, we do expect to arrive in WWE. Many people are expecting him to work Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. And I just got to ask you, Kyle, you guys talked about an extra last week, but does anybody really think that Cody is going to be much more than dashing Cody Rhodes in 6 months?
He'll be more than dashing Cody. I mean, that would be a very
card position wise. I mean, they're going to try to justify his pay a little bit, but like Kevin Owens just got a big payday too, and have they justified that? I'm sure when he first comes in, he'll get a big reaction. But then just the way that this company books, like I can't say he's going to be a major star. You talked about it on Extra, but like Cody's coming in because assumingly they gave him a really big payday. AEW didn't want to pay him that much. He's fallen out of favor with booking in AEW. And frankly, when AEW looks at their books and who they're paying money, it's worth to pay the big bucks to CM Punk and Bryan Danielson more than it is Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes just isn't really a needle mover at this point, to paraphrase Roman's shirt. So, I mean, like, they made the right decision, I think. Like, if he wanted big money, they weren't going to match the offer that WWE made.
No.
And, his father's history there and stuff, more so what happened later than his run as a wrestler. He feels probably a bit of a tug to go back there, too. And so if you're going to get a big payday, I can't fault the guy for going back, but I have zero confidence that he's going to be a major player in the WWE 6 months from now.
And I just don't know how he fits in with the WWE audience, really. I don't see the WWE audience that doesn't, the portion of it that doesn't care about AEW. I don't see them being passionate towards Cody either way.
No.
As a babyface or heel, which I think is going to be an issue. Now, if he's going to work Seth at Mania, and it makes sense when you just kind of look at all the moving pieces. All right, Seth doesn't really have an obvious opponent for Mania. So, and they're going to want to give him something big.
Mm-hmm.
So Cody kind of seems logical. We shouldn't write this in stone here. We shouldn't.
Right.
We should not chisel this onto a tablet and give it to Moses by any means. But
this is not a report.
Yeah, but I think it a lot of signs point to that match. I guess it makes sense for Cody to be a babyface initially because he'll get a big reaction at first just because he's something new, and new toys get reactions on WWE television. But like you said, 6 months from now, what's Cody going to be? I don't know. He's going to probably get a world title shot, I guess, at some point, just out of necessity. But yeah, I don't know. That match doesn't really excite me. You know my opinion on Seth Rollins. It's not particularly positive. So I mean, of all, I don't know who I would want to see Cody wrestle at WrestleMania, but whatever. That's a match.
Depending on how long they want to hold off his debut, I'm looking at the upcoming cities for. I assume he'll be. Well, I don't know. I guess. Well, do they have anyone? Raw is going to be in Jacksonville March 14th. I'm trying to think of markets that would.
Are they
going to
hold it off
response.
that long? Yeah,
I know. It's 3 weeks.
Oh,
so.
I could see Jacksonville. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, Cody always tried to claim that was like those were the real AEW fans because they gave.
Yeah, because the other Raws coming up are March 7th, Cleveland, Columbus, February 28th, Columbia, South Carolina tomorrow night. So I mean, like of those upcoming, Jacksonville would probably be the spot to do it if they can hold it off that long.
I know people were like, "Oh, you're lying, Kyle." I had no idea Raw was coming to Cleveland.
I believe you.
That is the first I have heard of that. I will not be going. For the record.
So this idea of big picture problems that we're going to finish with, I mean, the Cody stuff is emblematic of that because you've got like a fairly big name now. He's grown his name in the last couple of years. He's jumping from the main competition. The fact that we can't even be positive that he's going to be anything major in 6 months is again emblematic of the major problems with the promotion.
And do you think it's going to be like creative the way they bring him in? No, it's just gonna be like, it's Cody Rhodes. He's a star. You've seen him in other like they're just gonna like just say these buzzwords about him, and he's gonna come out there and he's gonna, delay cutting his promo to try to get some canned chant. And
I wonder if they'll be able to use the theme song because that was produced by a rock band. He used it before AEW.
I don't, and then who knows? But like. And he's going to use some WWE buzzwords to lead to some match about Seth Rollins that's for some untangible thing. Like, Cody's going to be like, I've been an architect elsewhere. And Seth Rollins like, whoa, wait a minute. Did you say architect? And I'm just going to be like vomiting on myself.
Oh, God. I can see that.
Dude, I'm thinking about I will never forget that Liam, you mentioned him calling word for word the Edge Seth Rollins feud. He's like that they're going to be like they're going to be arguing about who's the best ever, and he's going to be sitting there. Well, it's not either of you two, but so yeah, it's gonna be like, who's like the best wrestler in the. It's gonna be like so bad and whatnot. Yeah. But big picture with WWE, again to reference him, Garrett in the Facebook chat. Was like, this was a completely watchable WWE show, and it's interesting. He wasn't taking any shots. He was, I think, comparing maybe his own group on Facebook, over Fight Game Media. What was, I guess, a more positive reaction there towards our group's reaction, which was pretty negative.
Yeah.
And I really took it to heart what he said because I was like thinking to myself, like, there probably are a lot of people out there who think that the show is completely fine. And there are people who like the WWE. And it just started making me think, it's like, why do I watch this even? Like, I mean, I don't want to take this to a dark place, gang, but it's like, people are like, oh, it was whatever, enjoyable 3 hours. You maybe got to spend some time with your daughters. Other people, it was fine. What else was on? I would have rather watched like 2 college basketball games than this show. And it's like, and it's about the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
None of the TV leading up to this was any good. I don't really care where they're going. So, I mean, have our standards just sunk this low where this is like acceptable? Like, again, I asked the question, what was good on this show? And on the issue of standards, Ryan, people ask, well, what were the expectations? People who defended WWE, what were your expectations? They were probably unreasonable. I don't think it's unreasonable to have an expectation that something on a show be good.
Or make you want to tune in. Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, if I've got that I think something should be good. And again, I don't think anything on this show outside of Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss was particularly good.
Which again, though, that's like kind of like what I always say. It's a good match in a vacuum. It's not something that I would ever come back to.
It's not a feud I like.
No, yeah.
It's like two guys in a crummy underneath feud worked hard.
Yeah.
I mean, has it come to this? Nothing on this show is memorable. You said it. I would on Facebook. You responded here. I would never watch the show again, is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Who would like rewatch any of these WWE shows? It goes back to my point about the Observer Awards from last year. Would you ever like rewatch? Like, can you even muster up the strength to rewatch them to decide if they were the worst ever? I certainly can't and don't want to. And you know, maybe I just had less to do back in the day. There were fewer shows to choose from. People are going to try to make that claim. But, like, I would always want to rewatch stuff.
Yeah.
And like, it's not just Elimination Chamber or Royal Rumble or whatever the fuck the previous premium live event was before that. It's like the last 3 years of WWE. Like, who would rewatch any of this?
And I do rewatch AEW.
Yeah, dude, I've rewatched both Hangman Danielson matches.
Yeah.
Like, and I did it like instantly, like the next day. Like, you couldn't pay me to rewatch one of those matches. I know you might try, Ryan, but you know, from yesterday, it just like, what are we doing? Like, I hate to put it this way, but I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, dog.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, most of our discussions on the pod, we do the WWE recaps because they're among our most downloaded shows. People probably enjoy listening to us rant on them. And we're always going to do the premium live event recaps. But, like, we're not going to do many shows, guys, looking at weekly WWE television. We do have more historical look backs. We're going to do more of that with AEW because, simply put, right now, AEW, by every definition, is a better booked wrestling company. And if things change, which I hope they do, I would love both products to be hot. There'd be nothing better. We've lived through that before. If both products, both companies were well booked and great shows, I would be in heaven. I hope that happens. But right now is just no comparison.
With this Bruce and Vince and Johnny Ace solidifying, you know, as obviously Vince is always the power striving, the main, you know, culprit of power. That's never changed. But with Bruce and Johnny Ace now being the two guys closest to him, you see the identity for this product moving forward. And it's not something that has me particularly excited. Like, WrestleMania is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And
novel concept. Imagine that.
I'm dreading watching this WrestleMania. Yeah. I mean, I love talking to, you know, our listeners during the show. I love talking to you after the show, making fun of it. But I mean, I was sitting there at 3:00 yesterday. I'm like, I sat in my basement by myself watching this just completely substandard wrestling show. And I'm like, there is no way that this was better than watching Texas Tech and Alabama, Kentucky.
No.
Like, sports evolve. I'm like, this is the same thing. And if Brock Lesnar wins at WrestleMania, we are in the same spot we were 7 years ago with this product, where he is just completely dominant over everyone else. And I wanted to close on that. I'm not convinced. I know. I'll try not to, Ricky. I will try not to say premium live events. That will be my last time. But I think this WrestleMania finish is going to be heavily politicked. Okay. Coming off the Rumble, I said I expect Brock to beat Roman at Mania because at that point we didn't know that it was going to be title for title. And if it wasn't title for title, I was like positive Brock was going to beat Roman because Brock has to get something out of the deal. He's been booked really strong, as he always is. But, I mean, the way he was booked at Chamber last night was crazy, even by Brock standards. And I can see Roman just not wanting to lose again to this guy at Mania. I mean, if you're Roman Reigns, I mean, you're trying to I mean, do you want to go 0 for 3 against Brock Lesnar?
No way.
I mean, are you comfortable with that being a legacy? So I think they're like, honestly, the only thing that interests me about WrestleMania 38 is the political machinations behind the scenes between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, because I don't think either of them want to lose this match. And I think both of them are going to politic hard not to. And Paul Heyman, whose side is he on in reality? Is my question. I mean, is he talking out of, both sides of his mouth or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah. That is the most interesting part of the story for sure, is behind the scenes.
I mean, like, if you're Roman, you just keep losing this guy. Why?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with
Brock. Yeah, I was just gonna say, now that Brock has had this victory here, I'm not as set on Brock winning at Mania.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not ruling it out either. I don't know. I mean, because the thing is, if Brock, he's got an 18-month deal, and by the way, it runs out in February of next year. God, this guy is sharp, because what's going to happen?
Desperate.
They're going to be desperate for Mania next year, and he's going to get another primo deal. I'd love to know what Roman.
Gotta give it to him, man.
I'd love to know what Roman's deal is.
Yeah, me too.
Remember, he made that comment at Survivor Series about a contract. I would love to know what Roman Reigns
digging on this.
Yeah, somebody should report on what the status of Roman Reigns' contract is, because this is a guy who thought he was beating Lesnar twice at Mania, and it's been changed on him at the last minute.
Yeah.
You're telling me he wouldn't love professionally to stick it to Lesnar? Mm-hmm. Folks, if you don't think that's the case, I got a bridge back here, that you might be interested in buying.
Guys, our next show that we record later this week is going to be a whole different era. This will be for the Patreon page, our monthly Top Rope Nation Classic show, Chi-Tone Rumble 89, as voted on by our patrons. Looking forward to this one. Yes. See it on the screen here. So,
what great cover art!
Yeah, I think this is custom. Well, it's a custom DVD cover for sure.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that back cover is I'd never seen that before.
Yeah. So we'll be doing this later this week. It will be dropping on the Patreon page by the end of the week. Should be a lot of fun if you want to hear it. If you want to hear the Top Rope Nation extra shows that we've referenced throughout, check out the Patreon page. Otherwise, we'll be back on the flagship here on wherever podcasts are found very, very soon. Hope you enjoyed our look at Elimination Chamber. Hopefully it was more enjoyable than the show itself.
Ricky,
that is the premium live event from the World Wrestling Federation.
Oh, that is the one thing that really does. I want to say this. I'm not like kissing anybody, our listeners' ass or anything or whatever, but I always do enjoy hearing the feedback from so many of our listeners. Ryan, I'm sure you do as well. When they're like, your guys' recaps are better than the WWE shows themselves.
Yes.
I really enjoy that. And by the way, speaking of coming up on Top Rope Nation, I would say we are a little less than 3 weeks away from you, Ryan, finding out why I always make that funny face when you ask me to grade a show right after the fact.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because, as I have done with the other Big Four shows, I will be going a tour through history on WrestleMania starting on March 1. I'll be sharing my thought. And one of those will reveal why, in fact, I hate grading shows right after the fact.
Well, there's a teaser. So over in the Facebook group, doing the write-ups, right? Is that what you're
we'll be doing them. Yep. Okay. I'll try to do one a day leading up to WrestleMania.
Okay. Well, there's a good sell.
Yeah, and then towards the end, I'll just do 2 or whatever. No, but the interest in discussing the last couple is always like next to nil. So
yeah. All right, guys. Well, that does it for us. And so, Kyle, thank you for joining me, spending your Sunday morning. And thanks to everyone that tuned in live and on demand here on the podcast feeds. Leave us that 5-star rating. Leave us a written review in the coming days. Check the podcast feeds. We'll be back with you real soon. This has been episode 240 of Top Rope Nation. Have a